Okie doke, let's take a look at HTML syntax. Now the word I'm saying here is syntax. And all that means is the styling in which you write something. So English has particular syntax with apostrophes, periods, question marks, commas, things like that. It's like a markup for how we write a language. And writing code is no different. There are certain rules that we have in place. So first things first, let's go ahead and let's look at some HTML syntax. So typically it looks like this. We have some sort of element, and it opens like this and closes like this. So each one of these is called a tag. This is an opening tag, and this is a closing tag. And it always has a less than sign, then the word of the element, whichever element is, and there's lots of them, and then a greater than sign. And then to end an element, we do same thing. We open it, and then we say, actually, this is not an opening element, this is a closing element. We say that with a slash, and then the word. And then we close it again with a greater than sign or symbol. Now you may have noticed that I put this on a different line, and that's actually okay. HTML doesn't really care about extra white space, so this does not really matter. All these extra lines between line 4 and line 11, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. We'll talk about that more in depth a little bit later. So this whole thing right here, that is called an element. Now inside of these elements, we can have text. So we could say some text in here. And what a browser is going to do is then say, hey, there's a particular element here and it's closing here. And whatever is on the inside, apply these rules to it. So whatever the element rule is, maybe it's bold. Make this text bold is what it's going to do. And we'll talk about bold in the future as well. But right now, also, you need to know that element is not actually a real element. We're just going over syntax here, just so this makes sense in the next few lessons. The other thing that we can have are these things called attributes. And this actually goes inside of an element. So what I'm going to do is split this onto its own line, and that's okay. It's going to be basically the exact same thing to your browser because, again, it doesn't care about this extra space in there. So we have these things called attributes, and it goes attribute name is equal to, and then you can either have 2 apostrophes like this or 2 quotation marks like this. And then we could put some value in here, some sort of text. So we could say some text in here. Now we can have multiple attributes. We can have, let's say, a title attribute. And again, you don't need to know what this is. We'll cover all this in future lessons. Again, we're just going over syntax here. And this is an example of a second attribute. Second attribute here. We can have more and more and more. We can actually have unlimited number of attributes. Now, attributes are just like elements. An element has a rule that your browser is going to read. So if this were to be bold, your browser would say bold this text. And just because I write attribute in here does not actually mean it's going to do anything. Now, a good example of this, because this is not actually valuable whatsoever, attribute is not a valid attribute in HTML, we could just write title is equal to, and then whatever the title is. And title is actually a proper attribute, and you can add this to most of your HTML elements. Again, we'll talk about that in the future. You don't need to memorize all this either, because as you write this, as your fingers start to type more and more, you're going to become more familiar with how HTML works and how it looks. So the big takeaway here is this is your element. You've got an opening tag, and this whole thing is a tag. You've got a closing tag, and everything it encompasses is your element. Next, we have attributes, like the title attribute. And then so it goes, the attribute name is equal to, you need that equal sign. Don't add spaces before or after, make sure it's all together. So you've got your attribute is equal to, and then either quotations or apostrophes. Now here's the catch, is if it opens with a quotation mark, it needs to end with a quotation mark. Otherwise, if it opens with an apostrophe, it needs to close with an apostrophe. And you can actually see VS Code highlighted this for me. It says everything down here is all the same. And that's called syntax highlighting. But as soon as I replace that quotation with an apostrophe, because this attribute needs to open and close with the exact same character, the syntax highlighting worked. Now, if your syntax highlighting doesn't work right away and you're following this video and you're trying to do what I'm doing, go down here, and this is probably going to say plain text. You can click this, and you can type in HTML, and just click this one, and it will change your syntax highlighting for you. So that's all there is to this particular lesson. You don't need to do anything at this point in time. It's just really important to know that this whole thing is an element. This is an opening tag. This is a closing tag. This is your inner content. And this fella right here is an attribute. Let that sink in for just a moment. Once you're ready, let's head on over to that next lesson where we talk about the base HTML structure of every page.